everybody. This is Siegen Sarowick, your host for the Say Report, joined along with my other host, Devin Decker.
Oh, other host is good. That's far better than co-host.
There
I
you
was
go.
like, I have to tell you, trembling in my shoes that I'm not wearing, that you were going to call me a co-host again.
No. Brother from another mother. Let's go with that. That's the official title.
I actually really like that, yeah.
But we need to start the show today on a solemn note. We have some apologies to make to you.
You know what? Honestly, part of me wants to blame you because the second I said we're going to do this, you said, but we've made promises before.
Uh-huh.
You cast aspersions before there was anything to cast aspersions on.
That's true. And
But
then, what did we do?
We did not record our very first, very special episode of the Say Report. And I will take full responsibility for that. And that's because the intention was to look at the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the DC Comics Cinematic Universe. Is it the DCCU?
Yeah, I don't know what.
I don't know. Is there a title yet? That was something that didn't really go into the 6 pages of research that I prepared. Is what they actually going to call it?
Well, you know what it is that Marvel, when the Marvel movies came out, they needed to differentiate it from the comics. DC now is in a position where they need to differentiate it from the comics and also the Arrowverse that they've created for television, like the CW Arrowverse that they've got. So they've got a whole other mess of things that they need to figure out how to separate themselves from.
Yeah, there's a lot to, and you have to differentiate it from the Batman Begins universe and
the Nolanverse,
Batman,
the Snyderverse, right,
and the Burtonverse and the guy Schumacherverse. Which, I mean, I feel like Lego Batman really did that. If any film really just defined
what was going on in DC right now, Lego Batman definitely drew the lines in the sand for everybody.
Yeah. No, it all exists. Like, we're not going to blame you for being confused. Warner Brothers, we're looking out. But yeah, so I sat down and I started to do all the research on that because clearly, I don't think anyone could disagree with this statement I'm about to say. DC has decided to follow the trail that was blazed by Marvel when they made Iron Man and hit the scene with Iron Man, and they're trying to recapture that lightning in a bottle.
Right.
And, looking at it just from a financial standpoint, that has worked wonders for them. They have made more money. The first 3 Marvel movies, now you also have to consider that they were brand new to the scene. Comic book movies really weren't like this established part of the blockbuster system yet. But the combined income opening weekend for the first 3 Marvel movies, so that'd be Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2, is like a third of what the income is on the first 3 DC movies, being Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, and Suicide Squad.
Yes.
Now, all of this stems from the fact that I cannot fucking believe Justice League comes out this year. It blows my mind. But timeline-wise, it makes perfect sense. It would make sense that it would come out in It's been 4 years. It was 4 years from Iron Man to Avengers.
Yep.
They have a fucking, they printed something out. Their TomTom is telling them how to make fucking comic book movies, and they're following. They're not having to take U-turns because it's such a well-established path. And the only problem that I had with all of the research, and the reason why I didn't think it was right for you, the listener, to commit a very special episode, is because we don't have that last movie before their Avengers.
Yeah, we started making the puzzle and we realized that we were missing a very big piece.
And the very big piece is the one that Siegen says is probably going to be his film, and that's Wonder Woman. Without Wonder Woman's numbers, and I don't know if I'm going to wait until we see how much it makes overall in its domestic run, or even I think I could be happy with just its opening weekend, comparing it to, what's come before, because Wonder Woman, I mean, even this is brilliant, has this distinction of being their Captain America, the first Avenger, and also their Thor. It's pulling double duty.
Yeah. And I will say that financially, first weekend will probably be a good indicator of what that film's going to do. I don't think we have to wait much longer than that, but we need to wait for Diana. We got to wait.
We're waiting for Diana, like a candle in the wind. No, it just, because you look at it and you see the stuff that frankly astonished me. Like the information that I looked at, I really thought that things were going to be different on paper and looking at the financial records between the 2 movies. The 2 universes.
Hmm.
But what I saw, frankly, floored me, and I'm just like, without this final quadrant, I'm not going to know if this is a kitten in a bucket or this is a kitten picnic.
This is
It's kittens. No
no
matter
matter what,
what,
it's
it's fucking
kittens.
kittens. But so I mean, starting it off somber note. I think
Well,
5 minutes is more than enough time to apologize for
and
not
now
delivering that to your inbox.
I have
But
to say you've taken the somber note that we started on and turned it into a very tantalizing preview for what's to come.
right, no, yeah, like I think that's the Say Report, man. Right, we're consummate professionals.
Constantly promising and almost getting you there, but never quite finished.
But I don't think that's going to be our very first, very special episode. I would like to say, and I think this is a broad enough promise that if I fuck this up, like seriously, there'll be some sort of visual on the internet of me punishing myself for this. Expect a very special episode of the Say Report sometime in April.
Excellent.
You think
Excellent.
that's too far to go?
No. I almost am confident that I'm going to hold you to that, but I don't want to make promises like you because, but yeah.
Yeah, no, I have the cachet and I have the good looks and charm to make a bunch of promises and fall through on them. I still haven't alienated anybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep telling myself that. But on that note, Sejan, how have you been, buddy?
I've been good. Just been kind of taking it easy this week. We were trying to figure out what was going on with that. Saw Power Rangers a second time. Had to do that because that was like required viewing.
Currently planning to see. I know, right? It was a fun viewing. Currently planning to see it sometime this week with Zach from Board with Friends. Because no one wants to see it with him, and he very upset that he could not listen to our episode from last week because he hasn't seen Power Rangers.
Nice.
So
Excellent.
he's like, we need to go see Power Rangers so I can listen to your podcast. And that right there is dedication. So thank you, Zachary. I appreciate
Yes.
it.
When you finally get here, we thank you for that.
Oh, and also to Mark. Sorry, like we did a stream of Legend of Zelda before we recorded our whole Power Ranger episode. And I was very cagey about Power Rangers, but that's because I just had so much I wanted to unleash on the Say Report. So just apologies that wasn't as Power Ranger-y our conversation as you wanted it to be, Mark. But I hope that the Say Report fulfilled that hole in your life. It's more
filling
time.
holes. That's what we do. All right. No, but the other thing that I've been doing this week is a few weeks ago, the new Jim Henson project came out on Netflix, Julie's Green Room. And so I've actually been checking that out this week. Devin, you're saying you actually don't know much about it.
Dude, when you mentioned Julie's Green Room, I had no idea what it was. And now that I know it's Jim Henson, I am so upset that I didn't know what it was.
Yeah, so a few months ago, I would say about 5 or 6 months ago, there was an announcement that the Henson Project had been working on a new Netflix show that they were going to do called Julie's Green Room, featuring Julie Andrews as the lead, and then a cast of new Muppet characters as the group. And the idea is that it is a children's show through and through. It is very much in the vein of a Sesame Street or an Elmo's World or something like that. But the entire thing is geared towards teaching kids about theater. It's awesome.
That does sound pretty awesome. I feel like someone in my life once had an idea about animals in a forest doing theater and using that as a way to teach kids about theater. Someone told me this. We were in East Greenwich and they pitched me this whole idea. And I'm glad that there is something out there teaching kids about theater now.
Yeah, well, and so there's a whole bunch of stuff to be said about that, right? Is so first and foremost, it does not shy away from hey, the arts are financially in trouble. Hey, the arts are politically in trouble. Hey, so it teaches kids that. And so what's really interesting is that without using any demeaning rhetoric or anything like that, it is a very anti-current atmosphere show. It really goes up against some pretty big walls for kids, which is really impressive and really cool about watching it. The very first episode is the whole season, is geared around the idea that these kids show up at basically an after-school theater program run by Julie Andrews, and they're going to put on a version of The Wizard of Oz.
I just have to time out for a second, Saved by the Bell style. How expensive do you think it is to enroll in an after-school program run by Julie Andrews?
Well, and this is supposedly right in the middle of downtown New York because they go to Broadway show. They walk down the street to Broadway shows. So right, yeah. So
that's not going to Jack Black's Dewey.
So it's a bunch of little privileged kids walking into it. No, it's but but the very first episode they go to put on they're going to go put on the Wizard of Oz, and something terrible happens in the theater. A pipe bursts and it ruins everything, and so they lose all of the scripts, they lose all of the sets, they lose all of the costumes, and then the rest of the show is geared around them creating their own show and building all of that stuff, so rebuilding all of that, right? And so it gives them a really nice like story reason to be teaching each other about how to do these things. But like at the same time, that's also, as somebody that works in the arts, that shit happens, right? Like one burst pipe ruins your theater, and it's like, oh my God, what are we gonna do, right? And suddenly they're in the drain because, as they mentioned in the show, it's hard for them to find support without these like donors coming by and seeing them putting on products, but they can't put on products without the donors. And how do they do that? It's really, really interesting. But there's also a bunch of other really cool stuff going on with it. It features the first disabled Muppet. There's a kid in a wheelchair that is one of the coolest puppets I've ever seen. It also features a gender neutral character that they created. Like there's a whole bunch of really cool stuff going on with it that way too. So the whole show is just like I said, without using any demeaning rhetoric or anything, it's just kind of like in your face, like, hey, there's a lot of stuff going on right now that's not cool. Like, let's talk about that, but like in a really educational way. And like, it's geared towards little kids. So like, it's a really interesting project. And I encourage anybody to watch an episode, watch the first episode. And much in the way like Sesame Street is structured, it starts off with just like introducing of characters. And then there's a guest that comes by, they sing a song, and then they go and explore a Broadway show. And every episode is kind of in that exact same way, right? It's like, hey, let's meet everybody for the day.
Formula works, man. Every episode of Power Rangers, one of them has a problem. They fight a monster that is thematically related to that problem. They defeat that monster, and then it grows to 104 feet tall, and they defeat that monster again. Yeah. Formula works in kids' entertainment.
Yeah, and like there's some really interesting stuff out there about the way that Sesame Street was created and structured and why certain characters exist in certain ways. Like Snuffleupagus starting off as an imaginary friend, but then when they realized in the 80s all of the weird stuff that was going on with pedophilia, they didn't want to. The
whole thing of Big Bird telling people I have this friend Snuffleupagus and nobody believing him. They didn't want kids to think that adults would not believe them if they told them something that was true.
Secrets. Right. Yeah. If they told them secrets, they wanted to make sure that they understood that parents will believe you. So they actually brought Snuffleupagus into the real world and all that stuff. So like the Henson Company's always been doing this kind of work of like teaching kids hard lessons. And so it was just really cool when they mentioned that, yeah, we want to do it in a theater setting. And then like we got Julie Andrews to be the lead on it, who has done phenomenal work with the Muppets in the past and on her own. Right. So
she's freaking Julie Andrews too. Like.
So, like, the very first episode is Julie Andrews, and then on top of that, Idina Menzel is, like, the guest star, right? And they do, like, a little quick, like, montage bio on Idina Menzel and what she's doing in the arts and stuff. And then they, go to see the set of Wicked and show them all the cool backstage stuff at Wicked, and it was awesome, So, yeah, it's a cool little show, and I suggest people check it out. And like I said, be prepared to kind of, like, have some thoughts and feelings on a level that you don't expect to when you watch a Muppet show.
I have a real question to ask when you're ready to field it.
I mean, I would just say that, like, it's hard to not watch the show and not feel like it's real anti-Trump. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that as a judgment call. Like, I don't mean that a judgment call in any way on anybody. But watch the show and tell me that there's not a bunch of it going on just being like, yeah, how about we not cut arts programs? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
no, yeah, I agree. I mean, it sounds like that, and I'm very proud of how you danced around it. But you could say anti-Trump, right?
Yeah.
But so here's the thing: how many episodes of the show have you watched? I need to know that before I go forward with my question.
I've watched 4 altogether.
Okay, good. In those 4 episodes, have they covered the difference between a tech and a dress?
Oh no, they have not gotten to the rehearsal process yet. But okay. I wouldn't put it past them to, because they do everything from talking to kids about what a ghost light is, all the way to like talking about like what a light and soundboard do and how they work. And it's just like, oh, okay,
like that's awesome.
Yeah, we're covering everything. All right. Yeah. So like,
but I say as someone who has a degree in theater, who has a degree in theater, that when I got to college, I did not understand the difference between a tech and a dress. And I had won like theatrical awards in theater while I was in high school. But I got there and I'm like, oh, this makes perfect sense because this stuff, both of these things are important for different reasons. Why would you slam them together at the same time?
Yeah, and as somebody that has gone back since doing the undergrad thing and actually worked in with some high schools, they still don't know that there's a difference between the two. When you're sitting there trying to do some technical stuff, and they're just like, "We need to get through this whole show." And anyway, theater complaints.
No, yeah, like hashtag theater complaints.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's a cool little show. It's nifty. It also will teach you a little something about me, I guess, me and Devin and the stuff that we do or have done in the past.
Yeah, especially if you don't know how to use a light or soundboard, because
Yeah,
I mean
yeah.
that right there is my wheelhouse. That's the reason
Yeah.
why I'm recording this right now.
Yeah, and it's also, I mean, it's also one of those things that you watch, and the entire time I'm thinking, this is something only Netflix could do. You know, like there's no way that PBS could handle picking up a show like this right now, because first of all, they'd get so much flack for the weird, not political message behind it. But then on top of that, they're just losing money hand over
Exactly
fist,
right. They don't have the
And so,
funding
like,
to do something like that
right,
that Netflix would
exactly.
allow.
Yeah, so Netflix, I mean, like, not everything they do hits well, but this is, I think, something that they're going to be able to hold up for a while as one of their big successes, I think.
That's exciting. And
Yeah.
have you heard any news of when the next season of Mako Mermaids comes out? Because that's really what I'm just crossing my fingers for, waiting on
No.
Netflix.
It's like this weird love-hate relationship that I have with Netflix's going dark policy, where like they purposely don't put numbers out. They purposely don't talk too much about what projects they are working on / are canceling and things like that, because they have found that opens the doors to too many cooks in the kitchen, you know? And that has paid off for them really strongly in some ways. But then in other ways, like this, it's really, as a fan, it's annoying as hell to not know when a season's coming out and to only hear about it like 3 months in advance. Because I'll tell you, like this Julie's Green Room thing, I only heard about it just before Christmas, right? But there's no way that was the earliest that they started talking about this thing. They must have known that they've been working on this for a while, right? And so, like, I was blown away, and I wish that I had known about this for a long time, right? And you're like, oh, I want a new season of Mako's Mermaids. When is that going to come around? And
Right.
You know what? It could drop tomorrow, for all we know.
It could, exactly. I could log into Netflix tomorrow and be like, oh, look at that, Mako Mermaids. Speaking of that, the real Ghostbusters, all 5 seasons, are now available on Netflix.
Yeah, the original, like, 1970s show, right?
No, not the original. No, not the one with the gorilla. Screw the one with the gorilla.
Oh, that's the Ghostbusters. The real Ghostbusters is the cartoon.
Is the
based
real
on
Ghostbusters from 1986. The 5 I'm so excited. Like, someone's like, look what I'm watching on Netflix today. And I'm like, oh my God, all the episodes.
And the weird thing is, depending on what UI you're using, because I watch a lot on my PS4, but I have friends that watch a lot on their Wii U / my mom uses her Roku. Every different UI really kind of, it's so hard to find anything nowadays. Depending on what you're looking on, there's something missing. You know what I mean? Like, I really hate that I can't go through like very specific listings on my PS4. Like, my computer is the best way to still find out what's on Netflix. So if I really want to find anything new or certain on Netflix, I need to kind of just get onto my laptop and do it. I can't do it through my PS4. I can't do it through a Wii U. I can't do it through a Roku. And then once I find it, it's easy for me to get it to that stuff and then watch it. But if I ever want to just discover something on Netflix, that's like impossible nowadays.
Yeah, they did definitely. There's just so many choices. You know what Netflix needs? Because this is what we're gonna do, right? We're gonna fix Netflix right now. HomestarRunner.com. This is the internet for me. It's HomestarRunner.com.
Man, this is a phenomenal turnabout. But let's do this. All right.
They introduced a shuffle button on the front page, and you hit that shuffle button, and it literally just starts any of the videos that are linked on that server. You hit it, and a video comes up, and that is perfect.
There's actually there's a Cartoon Network app for the Amazon Fire Stick and probably in a couple of other places, but that's where I know it from is the Fire Stick. That is immediately what it goes to when you start it. Like, it's not even an option. That's just how you get into the app. And then from there, you have the option to actually bounce out and watch specific shows. But ideally, what they want you to do is just hit that that Cartoon Network Fire Stick app and then just watch whatever comes up. And I've actually discovered a few things that way through that. Like, exactly what you're saying is it's perfect for me to discover new stuff.
Right, because like if I could just because most of the time that I'm on Netflix, like even going back to when I was doing like Friends on a Couch stuff, like trying to find a movie for us to watch, that would be an hour right there. Just browsing and stuff like that. Whereas if I just hit shuffle and it throws on a movie based on that weird algorithm that tells them what I will or will not like, that it thinks I will like, that would be fantastic.
Yeah,
and I would be willing to do that because like I I do not watch Netflix nearly as much as I used to when I first got it. And part of that is because I know that it's going to be a slog to find something to watch.
Unless you know exactly what you want, it's really not worth jumping onto the Netflix UI right away. Yeah. Like I spend so much of my time now on external websites, the Netflix website itself, just discovering like what should I do next, because like that's one of the things that I don't want to say I'm surprised by this, but that's one of the things that I miss about TV. Is that idea that I'm watching The Simpsons because I know I'm going to watch The Simpsons tonight, but then like Fox will put on something after it that I've never heard of to just try and pitch that to me, and they think I like it, depending on it, you know, because I watch Simpsons, I might like this, and so like that's how I discovered Bob's Burgers.
It's just that it was on. Was this like early season or like
first season? Like I knew it was coming out, but I wasn't really like searching for it. I wasn't going to go out of my way for it, but because it was on just before, like in that animation block, before Family Guy, before Simpsons, before all of that, I just ended up watching it, and then legitimately, that's how I got into it. You know, and that's like one of the biggest shows that I watch now, like all the time. And now I do go seek it out because I know it's exactly what I want. But before that, how would I have ever discovered it if it hadn't been for, you know?
Right. Like you would have just seen Bob's Burgers as you're scrolling through the Netflix thing and you're like, no.
Some of this comes down to, right. Well, we're like, it's never even like a no. It would have been like a, well, maybe, but I don't know enough about it to know if I really want to get into it. Do I really want to take that chance right now?
I'll add it to my queue, right. And then my queue is 500 titles. And
Right. So, like, part of me has to admit that this is just the old man thing. Like, this is just the way that people absorb things now, and, like, social media guarantees that we're going to find out all this stuff. But there's another part of me that's just like, yeah, but like having that shuffle button, having that idea of just Netflix just putting up just a bunch of stuff in a row so that people like me can just put it on in the background. And then if something comes by that I really enjoy, I can be like, add that to my queue now. Like that would be amazing.
Yeah. Basically we're saying Pandora Netflix.
Mm-hmm.
Baby. Yeah. Like I watched P.C.U. last night because P.C.U. came on after the movie I was watching.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I'm just I'm not going to watch P.C.U.
Well, and you know what part of it is that there's some stuff that exists, and I think P.C.U. is a perfect example of this, that exists purely on you didn't realize you were in the mood for this. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like P.C.U. is one of those things that I don't think I'd ever put on, but man, if I realized it was on TV, I would totally watch it. You know what I mean?
Like from the beginning. I cannot remember the last time I saw that movie from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Like
right, and the same goes for things like Friends episodes now. Like I used to watch Friends all the time, but nowadays I won't go looking for it. But man, if I'm watching TBS and after whatever I'm watching ends and Friends comes on 6 episodes in a row, I will actually sit there for 3 hours and watch Friends for three hours. You know, like there's just some stuff that now exists for me as like I won't go seeking this out, but if it's on, I will enjoy it. And like that is gone with Netflix and Hulu because if you don't put it on, it's not coming on.
Exactly.
Right.
There's no then that it's odd. But there's been all these moments that I could transition into other topics that we wanted to discuss this week, but this has just been such a good conversation. like you're talking about these things where like you know it's coming but it's so in the dark and then suddenly it's there.
Yeah.
That's what happened last night. April 1st, 2017, when Adult Swim was like, oh, hey, by the way, here's the first episode of Rick and Morty Season 3.
Oh, man. Yeah. And then not only that, they put it on for, what were you saying, 3 hours?
They started at 8 o'clock and they played it until midnight. So that's like almost 4 hours of that episode just on repeat. It was like 24 hours of A Christmas Story, but far more enjoyable.
Oh, that's excellent.
And here's the thing. Yeah. I taped every block of it and watched every block of it to make sure that like there wasn't like some small change between each one, because I wouldn't put that past Adult Swim to do. Like, and it would be real easy to like record a bunch of lines, especially since Justin Roiland is the one who does all of the voices.
Well, exactly. And the other thing is, I wouldn't put it past Adult Swim, and I doubly wouldn't put it past Roiland.
Yeah.
Like, that sounds like that is something right up his alley, and it's fucking April Fools. But also, I wouldn't put it past them to know that they would do. You know, it becomes that rabbit hole. Of,
yeah, like it's like, yeah, they know.
Yeah.
But it was worth watching it 8 times. I'm not gonna lie to you.
Awesome.
And they also streamed it, so like. And that is something that people have been waiting for so long. And all these questions of like, when is the new season? When is the new season? And for them to do it like that, it cements that AdultSwim.com is the second best at April Fools, in my opinion.
Oh, second best.
HomestarRunner.com. It's HomestarRunner.com. There's not going to be no teasing or anything like that. It's HomestarRunner.com.
Do we need to talk about some Homestar all of a sudden? Because I'm cool with talking about some Homestar.
I would love to dedicate an episode. I love Homestar Runner. It is my homepage on my laptop. I open up Internet Explorer. I start my day with 3 Homestar cartoons using that shuffle. And I've seen them all. I know that I've seen them all.
My first app ever that I ever owned on any type of smart device was I had an iPod Video when they first came out, right? And I got the Strong Bad email app that you could just had access to all the Strong Bad emails.
I remember that.
The first
it was
thing
awesome.
I ever had.
Yeah, it's great. It's Homestar Runner. But right now we're talking about Rick and Morty. You didn't see it, right? You didn't get a chance to watch it?
Yeah. So I wasn't aware that this was happening. You texted me at like 10 o'clock last night to tell me it was happening.
Yeah.
And I was nowhere near a TV to watch it. So no, I had no idea this was occurring.
Well, a bunch of places have caught it and shared it
all at the same time.
So I'll share a link to one of the places on the Facebook page so that if you haven't seen it, go out and watch it because it's such a good episode, especially since they ended the season 2 on a cliffhanger. And then I got to tell you, semi spoilers, but like I won't go further than that. This didn't solve that cliffhanger. It's still a cliffhanger.
Awesome.
So like they showed like, oh, you've been waiting for season 3. Now we're gonna give you this little taste, but now you gotta wait to see what happens next.
Oh, those dicks. That's amazing.
But they have announced that it's coming this summer.
Oh, that
was the last thing at the end of at the end of every episode. They did a nice little like sizzle reel and said that new episodes will be coming this summer. So, Rick and Morty, exciting.
Yeah, and like also, hey, at some point, why don't we bring back some Venture Brothers too?
Venture Brothers ended though, right? Like I'm fairly certain that they had a finale.
I will have to take another look at that because I don't know if I agree with that sentiment. But
I feel like they brought it out and they said that this is the finale of the Venture Brothers.
Yeah, we will have to.
But we can discuss it further if it was actually a finale, like because I didn't watch it. Like that's one of those shows that whenever I caught it, I'm like, I understand this humor, I really like what they're doing, but it never. Well, granted, it also was like before the time of DVRs and streaming and stuff like that. And it's one of those shows where it has a continuity.
Yes. So if you're not watching it episode by episode, especially by the time you get to like seasons like 3 and 4, it doesn't. It's funny, but it's not making sense. It's like coming into season 3 of Arrested Development. Like, yeah, there are some good episodes there, but what the hell are you doing?
Yeah, but if you didn't watch 1 or 2, you're not.
Yeah.
The one I can best determine it as is Frisky Dingo. Remember Frisky Dingo?
I love Frisky Dingo.
How do you not love Frisky Dingo?
I have both seasons. I love. Yeah.
I did not love. Love was not the word I would use for Frisky Dingo until I got them both on DVD and spent an afternoon just watching both of them, and it's just like, this is fantastic.
Welcome to You Are Doom. Oh my god, that show.
We can never go back.
So like there's this weird thing though where I'm willing to give Adult Swim this kind of like rope to hang themselves with, right? Like I will let them do this weird shit like putting the stuff out without telling me and stuff like that, or I'll wait 3 years for a season of Venture Brothers and not get too caught up in that.
Can we talk about the fact that like it was 5 years between Boondocks? Like when Boondocks season 4 happened, I don't think anybody expected that.
Yeah,
I don't even think Aaron McGruder expected it to happen.
Well, right. And so, like, I'm willing to give Adult Swim that time and that, that type of marketing and stuff like that. But I don't know why I like the Netflix stuff just kind of gets to me, where I'm just like, man, I really I wish I could prepare for this stuff better. Like the stuff that I follow closest on there are things like House of Cards and the Marvel shows, and even those kind of. They're better with those shows because they're the bigger successes, honestly. But and Orange is the New Black is also in that grouping. So they're better about getting out there with that stuff and telling people what's actually going on with that stuff because they realize how important it is to keep those shows going in the way that they are.
Yeah, that's the stuff that's allowing them to print the money. Shows like House of Cards and Orange is the New Black.
And so like I also really love that they do these more experimental things like this season of Muppet stuff that may not pay off for them. I hope it does. But like it allows them to do that sort of stuff. I just wish that I could as a fan also show my support in that way. I don't know. Like I don't know why I'm okay with Adult Swim being assholes to me about the stuff, but Netflix I really want them to get their shit together.
Can I tell you why I think I'm okay with Adult Swim being an asshole to me? Because they kind of are. Like I'm not going to lie to you.
Oh, I think they wear it on their sleeve. I mean, like their bumps alone would like prove that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and also, sorry. Like when it first happened, I was just watching Cartoon Network, and then suddenly here's Adult Swim. Like it's always been like a thief in the night. But then
That's
further
fair.
than that, like it's sort of ingrained in their DNA that they're going to disappoint me. So like I'm not disappointed when they disappoint me because it's happened before. Like I can look at like Korgath the Barbarian. Do you remember Korgath the Barbarian?
Oh my God. I actually, YouTube just sent me a link to the HD version of that because they just put it up for real in like HD. And they were like, hey, you've said in the past that you liked this. And I must have like 3 or 4 years ago when I watched it, said that I liked it. And they were like, so here's a nicer version of it. And I was like, thanks, YouTube. And so I actually just watched Korgarth the Barbarian this weekend.
Like I remember we watched that in your house. It was like the Sunday before we were working at that audiology convention.
Right. That's right.
Like really right there the origin of our friendship is that audiology convention that we were together.
That definitely, we were like friends before that, but that like cemented us as brothers.
God, that was war. That's because that was war for all intent and purposes. But and I remember like that was so good, and I could see no reason why that would not get picked up as a show. Like the fact that that only exists as that one special like pilot always blows my mind because it was such a realized world from the first episode.
Yeah.
But I mean, but it's just like, well, I can't be disappointed though because they're still cranking out stuff that I do enjoy.
Yeah, well, and like it's like the shotgun method to an nth degree. Like they put so much out that when stuff doesn't stick, it's okay because there's 6 other things that did, right?
Exactly. And
Yeah,
then, like, but like, and like, I can think of so many disappointments that are Adult Swim related. Like Stroker and Hoop was a fantastic show, all
but
about
only one
continuity.
season, right?
13 episodes, and like the last episode is great. Like it really like showed that like we care about this show, and that never came back. You look at like Titan Maximum, like they've been showing Titan Maximum again because they're showing Supermansion now on Adult Swim.
Nice.
And Titan Maximum, like I watched it, and then like I got to the last episode, and I'm like, oh yeah, this is the last episode of the show. Like nothing is ever revealed, or oh yeah, they've been doing Supermansion. I don't love it, but I think that's also because I'm going to be honest. I think it's because also Titan Maximum was playing like right after it, so I'm like, I'm really here for the Titan Maximum. Like
I actually Supermansion's the one that started on Crackle, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like that's actually the show that got me into doing some Crackle stuff, and we're gonna have to talk about Crackle someday because now they've got like the Snatch show and they've got a whole bunch of weird stuff that are coming up. So like that's how I got into that, was because essentially when Crackle came out and they were like, hey, we're gonna make an honest effort to like be a competitor in this market, Supermansion was really kind of one of the big things that hit well for them at first, and so I fell in love with it like pretty early on because it was a new effort by a group that wasn't sure what they were doing, and it turned out, I think, pretty decent.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely like, it's good quality. It's, I mean, stop motion animation, but it's very good quality. I liked the humor of it. It's just
Cast
like, was that?
Cast is phenomenal on that one. Like, that's one of the other things about Supermansion, because that's one with Bryan Cranston as well.
Yeah, Bryan Cranston is the lead.
Yeah, right. So like, it's a really good cast too on top of all of that.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's also like, because it's Adult Swim, you're used to that 15-minute runtime.
Oh, sure.
And so Supermansion is half an hour of that, and it feels like an hour because you're used to only short bursts. So it's just retraining yourself to get used to watching that much in a row. And I know that's like a ridiculous thing to say, but it's 100% the reason why.
I don't know. I can't remember what the numbers are on this, but the one China, Illinois that used to be on Adult Swim, which I also loved, and I'm sad that that's not around anymore. They actually I'm trying to remember this. I think they started as an 11-minute, and then second season they actually went to a half an hour, and then lo and behold, got canceled.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's the way that it went. But there is a very distinct difference in feeling between the two seasons of that show. I love them both, but watching the 22-minute episodes versus the 11-minute episodes, they're two very different shows. Yeah.
Yeah, it just works. I mean, like, I don't know. And like Hargnall and Scopio Pipo, or whatever that was called, which was by the same people who did China, Illinois, that also was canceled. Like, that's not coming back for another series. And like, I think it's because they were trying to recapture that feeling of those short episodes.
Yeah.
But like, they just threw too much at it. But again, like, they have great songs in that. Like, Where the Hardy At is fantastic. Talking about how Tom Hardy just blends seamlessly into a role.
Right.
It's a perfect song.
Oh man, yeah, but Rick and Morty, like Rick and Morty's been a really good win for them as far as half an hour shows go. I mean, like it's been a blast watching that show.
Yeah, because I think I can't think of any other, like, I guess it's the Boondocks, Venture Brothers are their other half hour real successes. Because I can't think of, like, you think Adult Swim, you think of the 15-minute little chunks.
Well, right. And I mean, like, what you're talking about is you're talking about early Adult Swim really kind of moving into this new Adult Swim, right? Because if you start with, like, Space Ghost Coast to Coast and stuff like that, that stuff was all long form because, like,
yeah, but that was before it was even Adult Swim. Like, I remember staying up till 4 a.m. on Fridays to watch that.
Right.
And, like,
so, like, that kind of stuff is where they started, but then they slowly started to realize that their market was like the internet ready 11-minute episodes, and then like that's just where their bread and butter has been since then. And it's just been a few here or there that have been able to break that formula, but they only break those formulas because something else is such a good hook. Like Rick and Morty works as well as it does is because Dan Harmon and Roiland just like have such insane, intricate ideas that you need 22 minutes to really parse them out.
Well, I will say this. I was nervous watching Rick and Morty last night because I've never had commercials. I got into it very late in the game. Like, because I think it's because the pilot's not that strong an episode.
No, and that's because the pilot is just their webisodes of Doc and Marty just redone as an episode of Rick and Morty. So like it's like that rough made for YouTube, no editing required like attitude behind a cleaned up show. So it does have a weird feel to it. You're totally right.
And then they do Lawnmower Dog, which is great. Like I saw that episode and I'm like, I'm going to watch this show. And of course, like that's like almost that episode is like 45 minutes long. Like they're like we just put everything into it and we're like, damn it, we'll run it. And that one is great. And then they follow that up with Anatomy Park, which is another one that's like not as good as that. So like until I saw Me Seeks and Destroy, which is the 5th episode, like I was like, I don't know how I feel about this show because it was so hit or miss.
I love Anatomy Park, I will say, but I
like, can say now that like I understand this show and I've watched it and I care about these characters a little bit more. Anatomy Park has some of the most quoted lines for me. I will.
Yeah, well, and the other thing about Anatomy Park we have to remember is that's also their Christmas episode for that first season.
That's true,
so, like,
right? And you just love Christmas episodes,
right?
Like
exactly.
you're biased.
So, like I'm a sucker for that kind of thing anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, I think Hep C is just cool like that. Is and you got John Oliver. Like it's a good episode. Don't get me wrong, but it is like having that be the third thing that they're presenting to you. It really was like this is no Lawnmower Dog.
Right. Yeah.
But I was nervous because it was the first time I've been watching the show since I've like transmogrified into a fan that I actually had commercials. Okay. And I was worried how that would do with the flow of the show. Not a problem at all.
That's awesome. That's good. I've actually definitely hit a point in my life now where like I can't do the live television thing. So like anybody that knows how into like the Arrowverse stuff, for example, I am, they're always surprised when I'm not keeping up with it in terms of it being fresh and new. But that's legitimately because I've gotten to a point with Arrow, Flash, and Legends of Tomorrow, and I assume I'll get there with Supergirl. I actually haven't gotten into that one yet, but like I wait for the full seasons to come up on Netflix, or if I really am feeling like, man, I really need to get in on this, I'll go to Hulu, but I'll wait until there's a good 4 or 5 episodes for me to dive into. Like for me, it's part of it is the commercial aspect, but the other part of it is also like I just want a good 3-hour chunk of this. I don't want to just sit down for 40 minutes. Like, I want to be able to sit down and take this in for a while. And so, like, I love Rick and Morty, and I will totally check this episode out. But there's a good chance that when the new episodes start airing, I will probably hold off for at least 3 or 4 episodes so that I can then sit down and watch 4 episodes in a row and just take it in.
I am right there with you. Like, there is like that has been the constant struggle and debate in my mind regarding the new season of Rick and Morty. Is like I knew that this was just going to be like a one-off, right? So it's like a special. I'm okay watching a special.
Watching. Right?
Yeah,
it was worth watching.
Like watching a Heart of Archness, right? Like it was 3 contained episodes done way off schedule with that show, and I'm like, I'll watch it. But then like I'm thinking is like, do I want to wait and just experience it all at once the way that I experienced the other 2 seasons? Because I think that added to the enjoyment of it.
Oh, for sure. I agree. I think that is for sure the reason why I love Rick and Morty as much as I do is because I came into season 1 about halfway through, and like Anatomy Park had been really kind of the first episode I'd ever really seen. And so like I knew what it was, but I had 5 episodes lined up on Hulu or 6 episodes lined up on Hulu. And so I was able to just bang right through 6 episodes, and I loved it. And I was like, this is awesome. But then I was like, oh, but I think I'm going to wait. And I actually hadn't seen the back half of that season for like months after that. And then sat down and watched the whole season when it came out on Blu-ray, and it was amazing.
Yeah, like but I like it so much, and I like being involved in the conversation too. Like I've been having discussions with people about the episode from last night, and it's just been fun to be part of that. So like I'm such this like I love the new way. I love the lack of commercials. I love being able to skip it. I love being able to see everything all at once. But I also love like those old methods where like I get to have a discussion and we get to say, well, what do you think is going to happen next? And I think that's why Netflix doesn't really work for me, like all those shows, because it's like I don't want to sit down and watch a 12-hour movie, essentially, by watching the whole first season of Daredevil.
But I also can't talk to anybody because half the people I know do sit down and watch all 12 episodes.
Exactly.
And then suddenly they don't want to talk about it with me because I've only seen up to episode 6. Right. Yeah.
It's a fickle world that we live in. Speaking of though,
I mean, like,
nope,
no, do your transition because it sounded better than mine.
Well, I was going to talk about TBS. You mentioned TBS. The Detour. Have you watched any of The Detour at all?
No.
The Detour is by Jason Jones and Samantha Bee.
Amazing.
They're the producers. Jason Jones is on it. Samantha Bee is just like an executive producer, and she showed up in a couple of like guest spots.
They're husband and wife, aren't they?
They are husband and wife. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The first season, like I was watching it with my family, and then they're like, we don't really like it, so I taped it, and then like they went away, and I was home alone, and I sat and I watched the whole series start to finish, and loved it. And then
That's
like
amazing.
this second season, I've been watching it like week to week, and I've been enjoying it. But then I'm like, oh, that was like a weaker episode, but I don't know if it would have felt as weak if like I had another episode to follow it up. I forgot to tape this week's episode. Like it just jumped out of my mind to not tape the 7th episode. Okay. So I'm like, oh, I got to see if it's on demand. I check Wednesday morning to see if it's on demand. It's not. So I'm just like, I'm screwed, right? Like I missed this episode. I don't know when it will be up, but like I've lost pace with it. So I check again on Thursday, figure I'll give them 48 hours. Lo and behold, I don't know if I have like genie powers or something like that. They posted the rest of the season. They posted the remaining 6 episodes.
Oh, is that a good sign or a bad sign?
I don't know. Because it's strange to me. Like TBS's whole model is we're going to give you everything right off the bat. Like look at Angie Tribeca. When that premiered, it was on like it was either Memorial Day or Labor Day. It was a Monday holiday.
Right, but it was that whole day. They just played that entire series over and over and over again.
Yeah, they played start to finish. They did the whole first season, all 25 episodes, right in a row like that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, so like they're willing to take chances and stuff like that. So I was a little nervous to see the whole series on there. But Thursday night, I sat down and I watched the rest of the episodes that I had.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Like it was just, it felt as good. Like that's where my binges in TBS TV shows. I did it with Men at Work. I did it with Wedding Band, and I'm now doing it with The Detour.
You check out Wyatt Sinak's one that he did for them? That was a little weird.
People of Earth?
Yeah, People of Earth.
I have not.
You should check it out. I I was
I love Wyatt
I was
Cenac.
yeah,
He's great
exactly.
people.
I was like I was gonna check it out because I really actually really like Wyatt Cenack's like sense of humor, and it's like really slow paced and dry, and the show is basically that writ large. Like it is actually that really like slow paced, really dry, like I wouldn't say laugh out loud, but definitely like snort through the nose type jokes like throughout the entire series. Is really good stuff. So yeah, so TBS is willing to take some chances on some weird stuff, you know.
They're like the '90s. Remember when the '90s were like if you were a stand-up comedian, you got a TV show.
Got a TV show just to see what happened, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah.
TBS is like the champions of that. Still, it's very funny.
Well, you know, and part of that is because they are all within the same wheelhouse as Adult Swim and Cartoon Network and all that. They're
It's all
owned by
Turner,
the same
yeah.
people, right? It's all Turner. And so, like, what TBS is kind of doing is kind of like looking to what their brothers and sisters under Turner are doing and trying to like find their own way, but using that formula. And that's when you turn out things like The Detour or People of Earth or Samantha Bee's like weird Daily Show-esque show that she did, Talk Soup style show that she did
Full
for a while.
Frontal. I haven't been able to watch it. I think that's because I was like sensory overloaded the day that it premiered because they put it on every network. Like it was a universal 10 o'clock. Here's this show, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I know who she is because I've watched the Daily Show, but
Right.
like this is weird. Like, are you like I don't know what you're doing, and I didn't like understand that they were going for like full front. Like I could see because they also have Conan on that network. I could see if they were going to do like a nightly show with her.
Right.
And then like once I realized that it was weekly, I'm like, oh, okay, so I can calm myself down a little bit. And the stuff that I've seen, I've actually enjoyed. But I mean, if I'm going for that type of news, like comedy news, it's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, without question.
Especially if it's weekly. Yeah, the weekly episode thing. I mean, John Oliver's where you're going to go, and especially because at this point, I mean, not only I don't own HBO, I don't own HBO Go, I don't have it in any capacity, but I'm guaranteed to see an entire episode of John Oliver just by looking at Facebook the next day. So like,
not only that, like they're willing to put them up on YouTube. Like here's the full episode, enjoy. And it's just I think that's so brilliant in a way because they're not looking to be like they're actually giving the news. Like it's not like I've very how many episodes of that show would you say you've seen? Like
John Oliver?
Yeah.
Oh, more than 3 dozen. Like,
okay, good.
Yeah, like I've pretty regularly checked in on that show. Yeah.
Okay. Do you think that there's a bias there at all?
Towards common sense, I don't know. Like I mean, yeah, everybody has their bias, and you have to remind yourself of that. But it's definitely one of those shows where its biases line up enough with mine that it's hard for me to see them, I guess, is the way that I'll put it.
That makes sense. It's just, I don't know. Like, he's been doing a lot of Trump this particular, like, the end of last season and the beginning of this season.
Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah, right? Because, well, also, and like, all the stuff is that, like, it's just honest stuff. Like, I never feel like John Oliver actually hates that person. He's just like, hey, you should know that, like, this is real. This is for real what he does.
Yeah, and I mean, part of that attitude straight up comes out of the Daily Show. Because like back in the day when they had like everybody from like Rob Riggle, who was a soldier back from Iraq coming to do comedy for them, all the way to Jon Stewart, who is like one of the most liberal comedians that ever, right? Like they had enough balanced voices that I feel like John Oliver picked up that sense of balance from there, right?
Yeah,
and like
and also you also think about the Colbert Report. For as like much satire as that show was, even as the Daily Show began becoming more of a liberal show, you had that to counterbalance it. And and I know that's like weird to say that the Colbert Report, with its comedy aspect of looking at the right wing, balanced it, but it really did.
I mean, at least it brought that voice to the table in a way that other shows weren't. And I think that's what it is maybe about This Week Tonight, is that it's not so much that I don't think that there's not a bias. There's definitely a bias there, and it would be stupid of me to not say there was. But he's at least willing to bring other voices to the table and talk to other people to like then discuss with them on an even keel what is going on, more so than a lot of these other shows are willing to do.
Yes, and that's I think that's it. Yeah, because it'd be weird to be like, yeah, they're like highly conservative over at Last Week Tonight. Like
exactly.
Clearly not. Like no one is a registered Republican. If someone is, I'm not trying to be rude with anything that I'm saying. I'm just saying like you're clearly more in the Democratic. You're going to the Democratic parties, right? You're RSVPing. Thank you for the consideration. Here's a nice gift to the Republican ones.
Right. Exactly.
because you want to still get invited on the off chance you want to like have one of them on the show.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, like, there's also the HBO mentality to come from that because This Week Tonight is not the first news show that HBO has ever had. I mean, their longest running one is Bill Maher,
Yeah, but Bill
who,
Maher is so far to the left, he's almost right.
but there's there is a mentality from that show where he may be progressive to the end, to the end of days, but
Yeah.
he always made it a point to make sure that he always has somebody sitting on at that table with him that disagrees with him.
Yes, and it's also not like that person is there that person is there to represent that voice. It's not like he's bringing on one Republican with him and two other Democrats to
Just to
tear
crap
them
on.
down.
Right, just to
Like
tear them
it,
down.
you're right. Like it is very fair. But as I watch that show, because I used to like that show exactly for what you said, like he presents every side as well as he can. But then like it just became so liberal. I'm like, I liked you because you were given like an even keel view, but I feel like you've kind of lost that as time has gone on, and it
Yeah.
makes perfect sense why.
I
But-
mean, yes, considering the way that things have gone in this country, we've all been forced to choose sides in a way that we weren't 10 years ago.
Exactly, like he had to. Like I loved Politically Incorrect. Like
Mhm.
I loved that show,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was weird when he got fired for being politically incorrect on a show named it, and got fired from ABC. I'm just gonna say it.
Yeah, I mean, like, what did you think was going to happen, guys?
I don't know, but yeah, you're right. HBO totally wants to. They don't want to alienate anybody because
Right,
they know that they're a
so-
subscription service.
So you've got a lot of really good things working for you. Is essentially what I'm getting at with Last Week Tonight. Is you've got John Oliver bringing what he learned from the Daily Show there, and you've got HBO bringing what they've learned from having their news type shows in the past, and like that coming together has just been this perfect storm of just amazing intellectual comedy that like we just don't get enough of nowadays.
No, that's a shame because that's the best kind of comedy. Isn't
And I mean, and some of this
comedy.
feeds back, and a lot of this feeds back into what happens on Adult Swim, man. Like part of the reason why Rick and Morty at 22 minutes I'm willing to sit down and listen to and give it that time is because unlike Aqua Teen, which is great dick and fart joke humor, like don't get me wrong, I love all of the iterations of Aqua Teen. But something about Rick and Morty is it's actually speaking to me about something. Like there's some deeper stuff going on that I am willing to actually give it the time to talk to me about, you know? Like the way that it tackles things like depression and intelligence and like the way that those two things kind of go hand in hand is amazing. You know, like Rick's whole like thing, his whole attitude, his whole life is actually based around the fact that he's always been the smartest guy in the room, and like that actually damages him in a lot of ways. And like talking about that sort of stuff. And like not that I feel like I'm ever the smartest guy in the room, but as somebody that maybe has like more education than a lot of the people that I work with, or somebody that actually has like an opinion that is different from other people's, and sometimes that sucks to be the only guy in the room with a very particular opinion. Like, you know, happens a lot when I'm out in the middle of the Midwest and I grew up on the East Coast. I end up having some thoughts sometimes that not everybody out here agrees with. Like being able to see that and actually like see a character working on that on an Adult Swim show is like fascinating to me.
Whereas CBS, because all I'm thinking in my head is how CBS represents that. You have The Big Bang Theory, who, despite all of their genius flaws, still get all the girls and
Yeah,
are basically
well-
like a minstrelsy show. But also,
Especially-
I'm just gonna.
Especially because the big point of that show is about how they're all losers and never get the girl. But man, that whole show is about them always getting the girl. But anyway, yeah,
kind of. And then also you have Scorpion, right? Like I don't know if you've watched any Scorpion,
I
but
have
like
not.
the way, and I love Scorpion. The only thing I don't love about Scorpion is that like we talk about formula and how that works for a kid show. Sometimes it doesn't work in adult shows, like like CSI or NCIS. Like you know that there's always going to be a murder, and there's going to be someone who committed that murder. But Scorpion, stuff starts going like something bad happens, and then they solve it, and then in solving it, they create another bad thing, and the whole show is just like how this situation gets worse and worse and worse before eventually they solve it. So like. It's not great storytelling, but I still enjoy the show. But I'm starting to get sick of 3 seasons in how they treat geniuses like some sort of oppressed minority in America. And I will say that as like someone who like, you know what? I mean, like sometimes I do feel like I'm the smartest guy in the room, or at least I feel like, you know, I approach things from a more intellectual way. Like, I'm not going to just look at facts. I'm going to also look at experience, right? Which is a real definition of intelligence, I heard someone say once. But it's weird. I'm like,
Okay.
yeah, like, I'm an intelligent person and I get that, but I don't think I've ever been persecuted for it. I don't think I've ever been alienated for it. And, like, you guys are taking it to the fact that, like, oh, because I'm a genius, that's why people don't like me. And I'm like,
No, like I said, it's not really about the idea of being the smartest guy in the room, though, right? Like it's just about the idea of like feeling like you're the only one on this level at the moment, and that
Yeah.
level could be above or below what everybody else is doing. But it's just the idea of feeling like you're a man on an island, despite the fact that you're surrounded by 50 people,
yes.
right? And it's weird to think that there's an Adult Swim show that
handles that
stuff.
well.
Because Rick feels that stuff, and then the important thing is that also at some point Morty also feels that way, and it's that realization that humbles Rick in a lot of ways, that he realizes that as much as he feels like the smartest guy in the room, Morty constantly feeling like the dumbest guy in the room means that they actually start to kind of feel the same way a lot of the time, and like that relationship exists because of that dynamic, which is amazing, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome how deep that show goes, and you're just talking about a show in which they killed a hobo and then sent John Oliver inside to save him, right?
Exactly.
Like,
well, John Oliver already lived there.
No, that's true.
But yeah, but then the thing, and that's like a cartoon, and it's hitting more emotional levels as opposed to I didn't have a lot of friends growing up because when you're a genius, they don't want you to read books, they want you to play with dolls, and I'm like, shut up, get to the stupid problem that you're going to create and then solve. That's what I watch this show for.
It's just not formulaic enough. It's way too much character development. I want
like the character development in some is great. I mean, it's got freaking Robert Patrick in it. I love that I get to see Robert Patrick every week as not the T-1000, and that he's got so much warmth and he's like such a dad role to all these broken individuals. But then, like, whenever they're like, "Oh, being a genius is going to be hard for your son," and I'm like, just shut up. The pity party needs to end, guys.
Yeah.
Especially because they're a group of geniuses who all work together and found each other.
So you're like 5 people. You can't act like you're lonely when you have 4 other people constantly near you that are exactly like you.
Yeah. It's not like this is a definition of like I feel like I'm the smartest person in the room, but like give it 10 minutes and someone else will feel like the smartest person in the room because we'll no longer be talking about psychology. We'll be talking about numerology. We'll be talking about engineering. Like we share it. We all share the hat in this particular room. It's not like I have a doctorate in engineering and here I am working at Walmart feeling like the smartest person in the room and they're like, I don't understand how to fill the bags as efficiently as you.
Man, oh man.
Sorry, I kind of went off on that, but like you talk about that, and it's because Rick and Morty does capture that in a way that I don't think any other show has really captured the way that sometimes I have felt in the world.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so enough. We love Rick and Morty, homestarrunner.com, all of that. What do you got coming up this week, Siege?
Man, that was a tall order.
Yeah, sorry.
What? No. One of the things that came out this week was Ghost in the Shell, and I really want to go and see it so that I can talk about it with you guys. Not that I feel like anybody else should go out and give it its due. We'll talk about that.
See it on. Okay, a lot of theaters have days where movie tickets are cheaper. Mm-hmm. Usually it's a Tuesday. I know one that does it on Wednesdays. You got $5 tickets all Wednesday.
Yeah.
If you're going to give money to Ghost in the Shell, don't do it this past weekend, which should be pretty easy, right? Because this past weekend has passed. But do it on one of these days where they're going to get the smallest amount of money from you as possible. Or, you know what? I'm going to do this. Go buy a ticket to, what do you think the best thing out there right now is that isn't really getting the critical eye?
Oh, Boss Baby. No, no, Power Rangers. Like go and buy a ticket to Power Rangers.
Buy a ticket to Power Rangers and then go see Ghost in the Shell. Like do the reason why Wild Wild West was #1 at the box office. People bought Wild Wild West tickets and then saw South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
But yeah, I would really like to talk about that, but I want to be able to have an informed opinion on that one. And the other thing is that there should be some video game stuff coming up soon, right?
Well, yeah, there's definitely for real. I've mentioned it before. The Legend of Zelda randomizer tournament is in full swing. It started last Monday. I had a match set for yesterday. It got rescheduled. So my first official match in the Legend of Zelda randomizer tournament, that takes place Tuesday, April 5th. And that's going to be at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you go to my Twitch channel, it's twitch.tv/FoxZero. Or if you go to twitch.tv/SpeedGamesLive, I'm pretty sure it's the one that's hosting us for that. You can watch both of it, and I'd like to have support if you're there. I'm probably going to get my ass handed to me because the guy that I'm competing against worked on the logic and routing for the game that we're playing.
Nothing better than playing one of the designing programmers against.
Yeah, right. It'd be like playing Gary Gynax in Dungeons and Dragons, right? He can always roll a 20. It's crazy.
He has a 20-sided die, but every number on it is just a 20. That's not fair.
It's not explicitly in the rules. If you read your book, your Dungeon Master manual, it says that Gary Gynax can have a 20-sided die.
Amazing. I really like your impression of Gary Gygax.
I don't know what he sounds like at all. I just like standard nerd is what I was going for.
That was like George Lucas on steroids. That's what you just did.
But yeah, so I am out there. I'm going to be competing. I did just have my best run in a practice. I was about right around the 2-hour mark, so I'm feeling very confident in my abilities, and it'd be cool if you came out and watched. So
Excellent.
That's it. That's it. And then I don't know when Arcade Pit is happening with Zach from Board with Friends, but as soon as I know, we'll make sure that you know.
Cool.
So you can watch us do a video game, board game, semi-mashup. It's like Nick Arcade before the internet world.
I love it.
Yeah, right? So, yeah, that's me. That's what I got coming up. Video games. I'm going to also, right, I'm going to try to have beaten Zelda Breath of the Wild before the next episode.
Okay.
I'm very close to, and when I say beat, I mean, defeat Ganon. I don't think I'm going to go, collect the 900 Korok seeds or find all 120 shrines. I want to finish the story, and then if I do that stuff, I'll do that stuff.
All right, cool, man. That sounds awesome.
So that's me, and if you want to, compare or complain to me about the way that I'm playing Zelda, I'm at Devin D. Decker on Twitter. Brother from another mother, take it away.
I am at Siege versus the World on Twitter, so you can hit me up there.
And yeah, and you can always find the Say Report or contact us at thesayreport@gmail.com.
Or the Facebooks.
Yeah. And I'm going to have that Rick and Morty up there so that Siege can see it, and all of you who didn't get a chance to see it can see it.
Sweet.
Yeah, so there you go. Thanks for listening. Take it away, William.
Thank you for listening to the Say Report with your host Devin Decker and Seaton Selwick. Please follow the guys on Twitter and Facebook by searching for The Say Report, and you can always subscribe on your podcast channel so this is delivered straight to you and you can enjoy it every week. With apologies to your mother, we'll see you next time.